All right, I admit, at halftime, I was getting ready to brag about beating the Hornets once again. What's going on, everyone, and welcome into another episode of Wizards Latest. I'm your host, Ben Robertson, and no, we're not going to get all bummed out here on the page, even though the Wizards had their winning streak against the Charlotte Hornets broken. We're going to keep rolling forward here, young season, and of course, we're still rolling along in this rebuild. Going to talk about the game real quick, give you my player of the game. One guy that's struggled a little bit, at least through a week of basketball. And as always, here on the page, we're going to dive into your comments from the previous video. Drop your reaction to the Hornets game or anything you're excited for in Wizards basketball here coming up this week. Of course, another busy slate, another busy week on the schedule. Matchups against Philly, against OKC should be exciting. Again, guys, appreciate all the support here on the page, on the road, I should say, to 1K. We've recently hit 600 subscribers, so make sure you've hit those like and subscribe buttons down below if you haven't already. Of course, really does help the page, help move things along. Drop your comments as well. Remember, we're going to dive into them, so they may be chatted about as well. Probably likely going to be chatted about if you're down in that comment section. Appreciate the support once again. I can't say it enough. So excited and grateful to have a platform to talk about Wizards basketball with you guys. And again, want to jump into the Hornets matchup, of course. Keyshawn George struggling, back down to earth, of course. 34 points in game two. Really, really exciting, and I'm still fired up about what Keyshawn is going to do in his second year in the league. I know only 6 points here tonight. I know this is coming out the next day, but remember, recording post game, so reactions come out the morning after, so stay tuned to the page. But again, Keyshawn back down to earth. You look at the box score, only 6 points. Did have the 8 boards, 5 assists, so you like those numbers there. Like that he's contributing outside of scoring, even though, of course, hampered by the fouls and fouling out here this evening. And that's become a little bit of an issue, I guess, through a few games, right? But I'm not really worried about Keyshawn George, frankly. I think maybe 34 points in game two, probably one of his better or one of the best performances we're going to see from him all year. I think 6 points and fouling out in game three, one of the worst. I don't think that's where Keyshawn is going to be throughout the season. Remember, I predicted Keyshawn George to come close to maybe doubling his scoring average this year. He was just under 9 points a game last year, about 8.5, 8.7, I believe, off the top of my head. I'm sure somebody will fact check me down below. I think he can be a 15 to 16 point per game scorer at the very least, to be quite honest. That's what I said going into the year. After 2 games, it looked like it was going to go way above that. After a third game, looking like that might be a little bit more on par. Of course, best game of the year, right, for CJ McCollum. Really struggled in games one and two. Gets going with 24 points. I think, I'm not sure what you guys think about this, maybe, but I still think, especially come trade deadline time, CJ McCollum could be a movable piece, and that's why you're going to see so much of him in the lineup, and kind of he's going to have free reign to put up shots and maybe get some numbers. On one hand, I kind of think that hampers things in some way. I think nights where you have, and I don't know, I just would rather Trey Johnson and Keyshawn George and Cam Whitmore and when Bilal Coulibaly comes back, them getting shots, to be quite honest, and them developing their offensive game than watching CJ McCollum. I don't know, kind of shot chuck at his advanced age. I don't know. It hasn't been super efficient so far from him. I think if he's your leading scorer and best player and lead guard, kind of like a Jordan Poole, it's not a discredit to those guys. It's not like they're really not really good at basketball and can't be really contributing effective pieces. I just don't think as your best player, if they're leading your offense, you're going to be in a great spot. And I think that's going to be a little bit of a dilemma as long as he's on the roster. I realize that back to backs, things like that, he might be out of the lineup. But I do think while he is in the lineup, I know the mentorship, I know showing other players the way is a great thing. And a lot of the organization, a lot of the young guys have already talked about that with CJ McCollum. So I don't want to discount what he's doing in that regard. But it is sometimes, I just see him even on a night where he has 24 points. It's like, all right, great, but I'd rather those shots go elsewhere, to be quite honest. I feel kind of the same way about Chris Middleton. We're going to talk a little bit about the lineups once we get down to your guys' comments, because there was some thoughts that I think relate to maybe that train of thinking. Trey keeps rolling. Trey Johnson, of course, number 6 overall pick, 18 points. A little bit slower in terms, or lower in terms of the field goal percentage, 6 of 14 from the floor, 2 of 7 from 3-point range. Like, though, that again, at all 3 levels right now, he is showing an ability to be a high level NBA scorer. He's shown the ability to put the ball in the deck, kind of get to his pull up game. He's gotten to the rim, 4 of 4 from the foul line. Again, remember his stated goal to shoot 90% from the stripe this year. So just love what Trey has done so far. Again, and look, I think of myself as an optimistic fan. I'll be the first one to admit. So my player of the game here, and I know he wasn't, and again, we're looking at positive takeaways, is kind of my point there. But my player of the game is Alex Sarr, and strictly for what our guy was able to do in the first half. 17 points, 7 of 10 from the floor, just in the first half. The second half was a little bit strange to me. Obviously, I know the team kind of collapsed in terms of Alex Sarr specifically. Finishes with 21 points, 4 boards, 5 assists, 3 blocks in 25 minutes. Where did he kind of go from the lineup and on the court in the second half? And I don't know. I'll ask you guys this. I would love to hear your thoughts on this down below. Was Alex Sarr? I was from the. I don't remember exactly when he left in the third quarter, but I know he came back into the game with about 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and by that point, the lead by Charlotte was already stretched out. And it was just, and then he played kind of down the stretch in crunch time, which was a little bit strange to me. Honestly, I saw on Wizards Twitter the idea that, look, that's just a tanking method, and that's where things are. And I guess it did kind of make me go, I guess, scratch my head a little bit. And is that what we're going to see? I always understand that the front office is maybe going to intentionally leave gaps in the lineup or in the roster to ensure that, a certain win total isn't reached. But I would never think, I guess that wouldn't stretch to the staff and maybe like in-game decisions. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that? Is that why that was kind of taking place, or was it more just trying to get, Vukcevic and Bagley a little bit more involved? Sarr coming off a calf injury, wanting to be careful there. I guess my thought though, with if you was trying to limit him and keep him, a little bit rested after playing a bunch of minutes in the first half, well, why'd you play him down the stretch in garbage time once the lead had already, gotten built up to about 20 points? The final score 139-113. Interesting there, but I think especially in the first half, and really want to focus again on the positives here with Alex Sarr, with this young Wizards group building forward. I want to talk about Alex Sarr's first half, because I think once again he has shown he's added muscle in the offseason and made a dedicated and focused effort to his inside game and getting in the lane and getting stronger and just adding to his just going straight up and getting right to the rim and just being more assertive. I thought he was aggressive to start that game. Again, I think had the first bucket once again, and just kept rolling, throughout the first quarter, and then was really good in the second quarter. Again, though, Alex Sarr, I think we already know what he can do on the defensive end. We talk about it all the time. 3 blocks again here this evening. If he can continue to be effective offensively and effective in the lane, and I think the outside shot, it will come. It'll be added. He had the buzzer beater. I think it was like a deep 2 on the buzzer beater. Again, I think that outside shot isn't gone forever, but I do like that last year he wasn't effective from 3-point land or 2-point land. Now at least we're being efficient in the lane and finishing that way. So a lot of positive takeaways, of course. One, I don't want to say negative, but maybe slightly negative. And one player I've seen, not so much love from down in the comment section, Bub Carrington. And after the first week, may not be a ton of love, ton more love for Bub down in that comment section either. I will say though, and let me run through you the numbers. 4 points here this evening, and again, I realize I keep saying this evening. I know this is coming out here Monday, a Monday edition of Wizards Latest. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons. Drop your comments as well. But 4 points last night, I guess I should say. 2 of 7 from the floor, 5 assists. Did have a couple steals. You like that? Through 3 games, though, for Bub, only averaging 9 points, 31% field goal percentage, 2.5 assists per game. Again, up above a steal per game as well. But if you're in the camp of, not a Bub supporter, and I really do think he's one of those players in this kind of young mix that has really just a wide array of thoughts about him, and kind of a lot of people I've seen thinking, he could really be a lead guard or a really good player in the NBA. And some people really don't even think he should be in the starting lineup. And after 3 games, the ladder is probably, singing right now, like I kind of keep saying. But again, I think this coaching staff is going to give Bob Carrington every chance, really, to play through whatever struggles he might be going through early on in the year. If you're in the camp of you want to see him out of the starting lineup, at least for now, I don't think that's on the way quite yet. But I would like to see Bub, at least from the floor, start to get things going just a little bit. I always say with Bub, when his shot is falling, seems like the game, is really clicking. And it really does seem like when he doesn't have that going, everything else kind of falls off the tracks. And again, I think maybe the latter you've seen here this year so far at the very least. But as always, guys, want to dive into your comments. There was a couple things I really wanted to make sure I touched on here today. First off, I want to acknowledge, he wants to acknowledge, and I want to acknowledge him, Robert Walker, for dropping his comment down below. He wants to acknowledge Marvin Bagley, who came in and played a good game. He made Anthony Davis use a lot of energy, and I believe he helped Alex Sarr with that excitement. I thought a great thought there. I thought a great thought. How many times? You know what I'm saying. But I agree. I thought Bagley was really good in that Mavs game. Came in and really provided some solid minutes. Hit the nail right on the head. Agreed. Mr. Jeremy, David, maybe Middleton, and McCollum are good influences on the young men. I agree, but how much does that weigh versus just letting the young men play on the court? I don't know. I think the front office, the coaching staff will have to balance that throughout the year. I'm trying to balance it in my head a little bit as a fan, to be quite honest. Kenneth Rabin, again, dropping a comment. I've seen you down there a few times. Appreciate your thoughts. Dropped a couple as well. Did say Mavs did come in fired up, but it was fool's gold. Wizards were focused on defense from tip-off, and eventually the shots began to drop. We saw that definitely in that Mavs matchup. I thought it was interesting. He said, "Oh, and please look again at Cam. All that glitters is not gold, and right now this kid is brass. And if he finally opens his mind up to what coach is trying to tell him, Cam could be the steal of the season, but we are not seeing it yet." I think this was a reaction to the clip of, I think it was in the Mavs game. Cam comes down offensively, tries to go one-on-one, pulls up for 3, doesn't get it. Mavs come back down the other way, and I believe it was Anthony Davis hits a jumper. Timeout. Brian Keefe is fired up. He's yelling at Cam Whitmore, as he comes over to the huddle, really angry. And we've seen that. And even against, I would say against the Hornets, again, anytime the Wizards offense gets bogged down with one-on-one isolation basketball, it looks worse. And look, that's the NBA right now. That's just basketball from the very youth level through high school, through college. Typically, team basketball wins. It's kind of a proven thing. But with Cam Whitmore, I agree. I think he has to listen to this coaching staff. And for as much as people want to bash Brian Keefe, he is known for developing young players. That is kind of his calling card in the NBA. Go ask Kevin Durant. That he sings, the loudest of praises about Brian Keefe. But I think to your point about Cam Whitmore, he has to embrace, and I think he's going to. If not, he might be out of the league. That this is maybe his last stop in the NBA. It didn't work out in Houston. That's a team trying to contend, and they said, "Hey, we don't have a place for you here." Now they said, "We're not out on you. We don't think you're an awful human being or a bad guy. We're actually going to send you to a place where we think you can get on the court instead of taking better offers. We're going to send you to Washington where we think you can maybe thrive back in your home area and things could work out for you." If he doesn't realize, okay, I have to fit in here with the Wizards who are trying to rebuild and not even trying to contend, and if he can't do it here, frankly, I don't know. It might not work out for him in the NBA, but especially in game one, I thought Cam Whitmore looked awesome, and I think he really can be a integral part of what the team is trying to do moving forward. I don't know. Whether it's off the bench or even maybe one day in a starting role. Right now, just kind of even off the bench, I think he's could be a microwave scoring type option. Again, I realize the attitude and the buy-in has to be there with him. Finished with 10 points, 4 rebounds, a couple assists, and a steal against the Hornets, 4 of 10 from the floor in that game. Moving on a little bit through the comment section, and really the final thing I want to hit on today, and I really did have this, I guess, thought in my mind for the last, I guess, couple of days since I saw these comments. Excuse me. OG Newman 1 drops in. Why does everybody think Bilal is taking George's spot? George plays the 4 spot and Bilal plays the wing. He's too small for the 4 spot. And I guess I want to break down how I can think about this. I realize that traditionally the 3 and the 4 in the NBA are different positions. Traditionally, the small forward is more of a wing oriented player, while the power forward, is more of a post, closer to the basket oriented player. I would say for the Wizards, when you look at the lineup, defensively, that definitely shows itself. Like, for instance, Keyshawn George was starting the Mavs game guarding Anthony Davis. So if you're playing that position for the Wizards, I realize, or for, or even in the modern NBA, I realize in terms of defensive matchups, that makes a difference. Offensively, I'm not sure how different the 3 and the 4 spots are for the Wizards at the very least, unless you see either of those guys going down in the post 20, 30 times a game, or I don't know, whatever the post touch number would be, 20, 30, whatever it might have been for a traditional Ford, Zach Randolph type guy down, or 10, 15 years ago. I don't see that offensively. And so I just look at the lineup, and again, I don't think CJ McCollum is coming out of it right now for various reasons. I don't think Bub Carrington is coming out. I don't think Alex Sarr is coming out of the lineup. Even if Bub Carrington did come out of the lineup, or CJ McCollum, I think Trey Johnson would go into the starting lineup. So you have 2 guard positions taken, and you have a center position taken. Well, that leaves 2 more spots, I think. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this, but everything I've sort of seen, it looks like Chris Middleton is going to be in the starting lineup. So I don't know. I'm just, again, I always say I'm no math major, but that only leaves 1 spot left in the starting lineup. I'm not even saying who it should be, but if you're asking why are people saying, why is Bilal worried about Keyshawn taking the spot? Well, I don't know. I'm just trying to do the math, and that's what I've figured out. So, again, we're going to keep you posted on that situation. We'll find out when Bilal returns soon. I appreciate all the support here on the page, here on the road to 1K. Of course, I'm recording this post-game, so if Bilal comes out, or Bilal news comes out this morning, remember, we'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll talk about all the Wizards matchups this season, this season and this week moving forward here on the page. Again, drop your comments. Make sure you hit those like and subscribe buttons if you've gotten this far and haven't done so already. And thanks for watching another episode of Wizards Latest.